Hey, we're live. This is my name's Brad. I'm with Let's Go Road Trippin', and this is Travel News Report Live. We're going to talk about travel news and all kinds of other stuff, some inside scoop. And today's guest is Bill. We'll get to Bill in just a minute. First of all, if you'd like to participate with this, we would love it if you would. We're on Twitter, and if you just put in hashtag TNR Live, that would be fantastic. And we will.
We're live. This is,
Oh crap! I forgot. I'm gotta mute this.
And this is Travel News.
Sorry about that. That was my oops. There's my first oops of the day. Woohoo! Anyway, so if you want to get on, participate with us on Twitter, it's hashtag TNR Live, and I'm monitoring that. I'm also monitoring the comments on the YouTube channel, and if you'd like to get in on the conversation, we'd really love it. And really quick, if you'd like to help participate or help to support this whole live event stuff, it does take a lot of my time to get this together and work with the guests and do all this good stuff. So if you could help and go to the patreon.com/letsgoroadtrippin Patreon campaign and help support us, that'd be fantastic. Really quick, what this is all about, it's the insiders of tour operation and tour management and travels in general. So if you want to learn some really cool stuff about what we do in the business, that's what this is all about. I'm Brad, and I'm a tour operator as well as a tour manager. I do student tours, I do adult tours, I do senior tours, and I sell my own tours. But we also always try to have at least one other tour professional in this whole shebang. And today I have Bill Plenefisch. Bill, tell us all about yourself.
Oh, good Lord, that can get really deep real quick. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't. So basically I retired from the post office after 30 years, but growing up I always called myself a bi-coastal person because my father was from Connecticut, born in New Jersey. My mother was born and raised in Washington State. So I used to do a lot of cross-country tours with my family. I've probably notched at least 50 of those, and I've hit all 50 states as well. Not to mention I was born in Germany and lived in Japan. I've been all over the place. So it was in my blood. So as soon as I retired from the post office or knew I was going to, I heard about ITMI, and ever since then I've been going all out doing this business, and I'm loving every minute of it.
And about how long have you been in tour management?
I count myself from when I went to ITMI, which will be 2 years in June.
Awesome, so you've been doing it for 2 years. And we have an extra person watching, and if you're watching, please leave a comment on the YouTube channel. We'd really like to hear from you. Today we are going to talk a little bit in our news section about Flight 370, but we're not going to talk about what everybody else is talking about. We're going to talk about what's driving me nuts about the news in this. And first of all, I want to preface this. I feel for everybody that has any kind of relative, family member, friend on that flight, because this is just a horrible situation. Not knowing has got to be the worst thing. But what's driving me nuts is how the news media is handling this story. Everybody is going, oh, well, this might have happened. Well, this might have happened. Well, we might, maybe even this, and this guy had this, and that guy said this before, and the pilot, the co-pilot. It's like, if you don't know what happened, if you're in the news business, that's not news. That is speculation. I can speculate all day. Maybe they hit a time warp. Maybe they flew back to 1947, or maybe they went to prehistoric times, or maybe the space aliens took them. All of these things are maybes. Yes, my speculations are a little bit more wild than everybody else's, but the whole fact that what they're saying is not really anything new or any newsworthy information. There's a lot of other stories out there that really need to be talked about rather than the flight. And I know this isn't completely travel related, but it is because it does have to do with flights, and some people get scared about all of flying. There's people that are scared enough of flying in the first place. And a lot of people are saying, how could they have lost this flight? How could it vanish? Don't they have radars scanning the Earth, every inch of the Earth? Oh, no, actually there's a lot of blank spots, and satellites don't cover the entire Earth. They just don't. Now, Bill and I talked a lot about this yesterday during our pre-game show, is what I like to call it. That's what we'll call it now, anyway. So, Bill, chime in here. What's your opinion on this?
Well, actually, I totally agree with you. I mean, after we talked about it, it's funny because the Flight 370 kind of came to me as almost a surprise, because last week I was on a cruise and kind of taking some time out before I hit the Washington, D.C. streets. I'm leaving tomorrow. And I had heard something vaguely about a flight was missing. Then I heard that it had been found, went off on the cruise, and I come back and find out that wasn't true. And what Brad's saying and what I'm saying about news in general, not just this flight, but it disturbs me because I've always seen the news as being something that's supposed to be just that. It's kind of like a referee or an umpire or a judge. They're supposed to be non-partial, non-biased, non-biased, and just report the facts. Now, if they want to have a segment like 60 Minutes did years ago where they did point counterpoint, they can make it quite clear this is more of a biased take on the news, but this isn't specifically the news. There's so many people out there that are misinformed because they don't realize the difference between speculation and actual facts, and they will hear things, and then next thing you know, there's been a lot of problems. And I feel sorry for the families of the people on this flight. No matter what happened to it, there's a lot of misinformation going out there. There's some accusations going out there that may turn out to be true. They may turn out to be false, but we don't need to drag anybody through a gutter until we know what's been going on. And anyway, that's the news to me in general needs to go back to being just factual statements. These are the facts. You can make your own opinions about them, and if you want to learn more, then watch something that specifically is geared toward that. But put it out there. This is speculation.
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. Speaking of speculation, we have 3 whole viewers right now, and I would really like to know what's the wildest speculation. Just make something up about the flight. And again, I don't mean to be mean to any of the victims or anybody of this, but this is just, what's the most ridiculous speculation that you've heard about this flight? And we'll just keep continuing, just so you guys know who are leaving comments or Twitter. We have about a 2-minute delay roughly from the time you hear things till the time I see things, and maybe another minute until you get to hear the response. So if there is a delayed response, well, be patient because it takes a while. And that's pretty much all of the news stuff I really want to talk about, because this show is a lot more about the tour business, but I always want to stick a little bit of news in it. And one of the things that's big in tourism right now for us tour managers, in fact, I've talked to a whole bunch of tour managers in the last couple of weeks, it is student tour season. It has begun. Probably some people have been doing it for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. Mine started about 2 weeks ago, and quite honestly, I hope that my last 2 groups, or my first 2 groups of this season, is going to be a reflection of the rest of my season. Of course, I don't think it will be, but it would be fantastic if it is, because my first 2 groups were so much fun that I just can't believe it. I mean, I haven't had that much fun on a tour ever with any kind of group. And what it kind of reminds me of, it kind of tells me that I really feed off of a group as a tour manager. If I come on, I've always got energy. I've always got the energy level. I start up, I say, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Chicago, welcome to New York, welcome to wherever we're at, and let's have a good time. And it's that initial reaction that I get from them that helps feed the rest of the tour. Like, for instance, if they go, yay, we're all here, or if they're dead, that sets the tone for the rest of the tour. And I've just had 2 fantastic groups right in a row. Now, Bill, I don't know, did you say you already started your tour season, or is that coming up next week?
My first tour of this season, it will be in 3 days.
3 days, and that's in D.C.?
Yes.
Okay, and Phantom here is listening. I don't know who Phantom is. Hi, Phantom. He says he heard the terrorists had something to do with flight, and I've heard of that too, and I've heard that it crashed, and I've heard this, and I've heard that it turned around, and I've heard, but we don't know what is actual fact. And now we can talk more about the student tour. See, I will acknowledge your presence in the comments. But with your what kind of student tours do you have this year, Bill? Where are you going?
I have quite a variety of them. I have um, your basic 3-day tours. I've got some 6-day tours. I've got mostly DC. I have one or two up in New York City. I have a tour that does the gamut from Philadelphia all the way down to Williamsburg. And some of these are repeat business from last year. They wanted me back, so they're all. I had one guy that's very excited. He's been texting me all year saying he can't wait for June to arrive. So and honestly, that's one of the things. It's really a very rewarding business to me because first of all, I don't feel like I'm working. I mean, I'm working, but it just doesn't feel the same as when I went to the post office, I had a set schedule, and I was always glad to have my days off and glad to get home. Whereas on the tours, there's a lot of times I'm sitting there shaking my head thinking, I'm getting paid to do this. Yes, there are moments, but it's very rewarding to, bring people to these places they've never seen. And it's inspiring to see how they feel about it and how they respond to it. And even sometimes the glum people, like you showed me your face earlier, when you get the person on the bus where you realize, they're not into this, and suddenly you get them to crack a smile or to have some input, you feel like you've touched them in a way. And I enjoy that.
So what are some of the things that you do to try to engage the students? Now, first of all, there's a lot of different there's a couple different student groups that I've had. I've had like the performance groups like band and choir, even a dance team. But I've also had the middle school heading down to the Capitol doing that. Now, what are some of the things that you do, or what? And first of all, hang on, let me start over. What types of groups do you normally get, and what do you do to try to inspire or get their energy level up?
Okay, that's a good question. I realized that's what you were asking me earlier. I kind of missed the boat on that. But I have some music groups. I've got some regular 8th grade groups. I have some groups that are history. They're involved in history. I remember last year, and this is to me, it was one of the funniest lines I had. I had a group of, they were considered AP students, advanced placement, but they were also kind of special needs because they were in that area where they went to a special school and they had to be almost engaged in a different kind of manner. But I remember driving by the Einstein or stopping at the Einstein statue, and I was telling them about the rumor that if you rub his nose, you get 10% more brain power, and they all spoke up and said, "Bill, we're already geniuses." So, but going back to one of the things I do when I first, and bear in mind, everybody who's watching this says, well, Bill hasn't really, I've done one complete season in DC, so this is my second one coming up. So I'm sure I'm going to get more and more variety, and I'm going to be adapting new things I learn all the time. But one of the things that worked for me all of last season, and honestly, I think it's an important thing, is I try to when I first get on the bus, when I introduce everybody, I always tell them, welcome to your city. I try to make them all feel at home because Washington, D.C., to me, belongs to everybody in the nation. You don't have to live there for it to be your city. So if you're from Detroit or L.A. or Clinton, Iowa, or even if there is even one of those, it doesn't matter where you're from, you belong, DC belongs to you. And so they're coming to visit their city. And I try to get them to relate, oh, I'm not just visiting, this is my town. And what I'm doing is I'm showing them a reason to be proud of their town, and also in the long run why they're going to have to come back.
Wow, that's actually a really good one. I don't know of anyone else that says welcome to your city, Washington D.C. What have you had anything like stand out in some kind of anecdotal way with any of your student tours or anything like that that you would like to share with our audience?
Um, do you want me to talk about a positive issue or a negative issue?
Well, something that may have been challenging that came out okay. Anything that you feel free or feel comfortable with admitting on the air on YouTube that will stay online forever.
Right, well, what I want to talk about, this was actually a negative experience. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to go into any of that. But I actually had one of the group leaders of one of my groups, and this is where the challenge is, because when you have the groups come in, the group leader is technically the person that you need to please. They're the ones that organized the trip. They're the ones that put it together. They're the ones that said this is the itinerary I want, et cetera, et cetera. And then you also realize that all these students paid for this trip, and they have expectations. So who are you supposed to cater to when the leader of the trip says, I'm tired, I want to go back to the hotel early, I'll just tell them that we did this.
Oh my, that
So
I haven't had that happen yet.
I had that happen to me, and I did my best to still hit all the itinerary spots and kind of I basically tried to explain to her why we needed to continue even though she was tired. I don't know if that cost me as far, but I also know the tour operators want me to follow what they want, so I was playing a very fine line. So to me, that was a huge challenge to make the tour work for everybody that was there, including the person that had said, well, I've been here 18 times, I don't need to see all this stuff again.
And I want to put this question out there because we got a few people watching now. And if there's any of our tour manager friends, how would you respond to that? Because there's a couple ways. I mean, you could just kind of cajole the lady, saying, this is not. I mean, I understand. This is where it's really, really touchy, and I understand. Wow. I mean, I'm going off the top of my head. At first, my jaw would probably hit the floor, going, I don't believe you just said that. But then on the other side, I'd be like, okay, we need to convince her to make this work. Like, something to the effect of, the students paid for this tour. I know that I have to kiss up to you, and I really wouldn't say that. But, is it really fair to these students? This is your 70th time seeing it, but this is their first and possibly only time that they're ever going to see the FDR, memorial, or the Vietnam Memorial, or the Korean War Memorial, or the Smithsonian Museums. This may be their only time. So how do you, I want to bring that to the audience, to our people watching. If there's another tour manager out there, I would really like to hear what your response would be, because that's a heck of a one. That definitely is a big deal. And that's some of the stuff that we go through, and I'm glad you actually shared that, because being a tour manager isn't all happy-go-lucky and good time.
Right. Brad, I think ultimately I was able to make it. Now, bear in mind, when she said that, there were some of the other teachers from the group, their mouths dropped because they heard what she said.
Wow. Yeah, and that just kind of floors me. Now, I don't even know where to go with this now. The beauty of live. That's a heck of a story, but I'm hoping that we hear something from the peanut gallery down there. I haven't seen any comments pop in yet. Anyway, we'll change topics, and if we see a comment come in on it, we'll mention that. One of the things I want to talk about is when you're on these tours, a lot of people don't realize that you work, anywhere between, if you work a 10-hour day, that's a short day. A 16-hour day, and sometimes a 20-hour day. and that's you have to be available. And this is for adult tours too. On some days on adult tours, not normally, but on a student tour, sometimes you're up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you have to be available. And then you have to wait until security. Some companies hire security, and they come in at 10:30. That's a long day. Now, what are some things that, I mean, I know what I do. I take mini breaks throughout the day. I mean, I love my groups. Like even with the groups I just had that were fantastic, and I really couldn't get enough of them. Except, you know, there are times where you just need to have me time, because when you're around that many people for that long a time, you need that me time. And what I like to do is I'll find, when we're in a, like at Navy Pier, I have a couple of hiding places that I go to. I'm not really hiding, because you still have to be available, and you have to be able to make sure you can get somewhere really, really quick in case there's an emergency, or even if they just need some assistance. Like, where's the McDonald's? Well, you walked past it about 5 minutes ago. Simple things like that. So I like to find kind of a hiding place, but still be in a place where they don't do. So what kind of do you, Bill? I mean, in DC, I know of a couple places like that, and don't tell where they're at, because then they're no longer hiding places. But do you have some places, or what do you do to help that balance?
That's such a good point you make, because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times I don't feel like I'm working, even though I am. But part of it's because you do take advantage of those times where you can kind of give yourself, you have to be smart and give yourself some downtime, and at the same time, you're still available, as you said. I mean, great examples are when you do the museums, and you were I mean, most of the groups say they just want to be let loose in the museum. And so when that's going on, some of the groups split up. They may go into the Natural History and the American History Museum, or they go back and forth. So when they're doing that, I'm not with them the whole time. I may go down to the cafeteria, or I may, if you're really hiding, I may go outside of the building and go sit on the mall, go sit up around the back of, around the side of, the American History Museum. There's spots where you can get away. You can go to the sculpture garden. You can go to there's just a lot of things you can go take advantage of.
And that sculpture garden is awesome. I really enjoyed going there. Someone had showed me that. I didn't even know. I mean, it's kind of hidden. It's tucked in there a little bit. I mean, it's right there, but it's behind all the bushes and trees, and you don't really know it's there unless you walk into it, which I really liked.
Right. And that's kind of what I do, is every location where I know that they just want to be on their own anyway, you can take some time. And I always address with the leader first. I say, you guys just want to go off on your own. Do you need me to hold? A lot of times you'll find time at Mount Vernon that way. A lot of times you'll find time at the Holocaust Museum. I mean, if you've never seen these places, obviously you want to go through them, and I generally will go through them. But there's times when you've been doing it over and over and over again, nothing's really changed, and you just kind of find places. Go ahead and go through, and I'll meet you on the other side. The Capitol's a good example of that. They have a guide that's taking them through it. So once they go in to see the movie, I just say, well, we'll meet you on the other side, unless they've made it clear to me they want me to go with them. Sometimes I like going with them. I don't always necessarily need the downtime that other people do. But
you're still new.
Yeah.
I'm still new too. I mean, I've been doing it for a few years now. I think this is my 4th or 5th season. But I still get the nerves. I mean, but even before the show, I get nervous. I don't know why, because I talk in front of 50 to 200 people at a time, and this one we're talking in front of 4 people right now. And for those 4 people, would you all say hi through the comments? I would really appreciate it to know who's watching us at the moment. And I know I keep looking away from the camera because I'm watching for the comments on Twitter and on YouTube. And if you're going to comment on Twitter, it's hashtag TNR Live. Ask us questions. What do you want to know about me and Bill? Bill, I basically met Bill online. I met him, you know, it's like on a dating service. Oh no, it's not a dating service, was it, Bill?
It's called
No.
Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay, yeah, that was it. Facebook. Yeah, we met on Facebook on a mutual group that we belong to that's closed up for tour managers. And I basically put a thing out there, hey, who wants to be on my live show? And he was the first person to respond. And FLT, who was last or 2 weeks ago, they were the second people, but their schedule was more open than Bill's because he was going on that cruise. Must be nice.
It was nice.
Yeah. So here's something. Since this is still more fresh in your mind than mine, what was it like adjusting from post office, making a regular income, you know, paychecks every week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, to pretty much being an independent contractor and begging for work?
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of times I tell people, first of all, I love this endeavor. I love this career. Part of me looks back and says I wish I had been known about it 30 years ago. But because I did my time at the post office, obviously that gave me a little bit of security. But now this has freed me up to do things that I love doing. But I describe this job to people as it's one where you're constantly job hunting. And because of your constant job hunting, I have learned really quickly something I never had to do in the past, which is to learn how to network with people. And that has kind of been not only eye-opening, but it's also been I'm enjoying meeting people and gaining new friends constantly. And as I said, the job seemed to come because I'm enjoying myself. In other words, I get the jobs because I'm having a good time.
That's, you know what, and that it goes a long ways. As long as you are a competent person and you have a good time, and another thing I actually kind of want to talk about that's key that I came up with today, so we didn't talk about this yesterday. You know, as long as you get good reviews, you know, those are like the big deal in our industry as a tour manager or even a tour operator. You know, a lot of the adult companies have specific forms. Oh, Janet. Hi, Janet. Janet was on my tour last week. I just got rid of her. I mean, I just saw her last weekend. But anyway, we have these reviews that we go back, and some adult tours, they get like 3-4 pages, and you got to fill all this stuff out while they're on the tour. Some of them do emails, and with the company that actually Janet was with, they do it very easy, where the group leader just sends back, you know, a grade like an A plus. You know, I don't know anything less than an A plus, really. What have you seen? I mean, like you said, in order to do, I guess my flow, Janet screwed up my flow. Thanks, Janet. Dang it, Janet. Love you. You know what I mean. Anyway, the whole idea is as long as you're enjoying it, you'll get the good reviews and you'll get repeat business, and because of that, you will get more referrals. There's the word I'm looking for. Referrals from other people. Like, for instance, the tour I'm doing Friday is with another company that I've never worked with them before, and it's because I know somebody else in Grand Rapids, Michigan who couldn't do this tour, and they said, hey, why don't you try Brad? And then another company I'm doing, I got a group coming into Chicago a few months, and that's a company that I haven't done any work with either. And I find these because people have said, hey, Brad is great in Chicago, which is fantastic. You know, I get a lot of work in Chicago, but the only problem is I want to leave Chicago a little bit more often. So if you guys can help me out there, come on, Janet. You know I want you to go to New York with me. Yes, I'm giving her a hard time. She was a lot of fun on the tour. Anyway, you know, that's just the whole thing is fun. The reviews come in, and then the referrals start coming in. And I don't know how much of that you've seen, Bill, but I've really seen a lot of that. It is starting to grow more now in my 4th year, I think it is.
Well, I think you have had 4 years. I haven't done the math for you, but I do know last year I did get several. As I mentioned, I have the one guy that's excited about June coming up, and I did get good scores from him, obviously, and I, I got good scores from most of the tours I did. In fact, the few where I didn't get as as high a score as I would have thought, you don't really know what's going on in their mind all the time, so it's hard to judge the scoring, how people score. But there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, that if you do a good job, and my whole goal, my aim, my first goal, I guess I should put the plug out there. Your first goal is the safety of the group, right? We all know that. But the second goal is I want everybody to go home feeling like they had a good time. And each one of us is different. Some of us are comedians, some of us are storytellers, some of us are historians, some are geologists. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. My goal and the way I've always approached all the tours up till now is based on the reason I wanted to get in this business was from my own experience of traveling with my family and then traveling as an adult with my family, in other words, as a kid and then as I grew up into an adult. And I kind of take the concept of your family car, now instead of just 4 people in it, I have 50 people in it. But we're there to see the sights. And if I've been there before, this is cool because I want you guys to be just as excited as I am about this site. If I've never seen it before, I'm really excited in the same way because I'm going to see it just like you are. And so I kind of have developed this attitude that I want the group to be like my family, and we're all going to see this stuff together. And I think they come away with the family idea. They come away with I don't want to say warm and fuzzy, but they come away with a feeling where, hey, this guy's kind of cool. I want to do another one with him. At least that's what I'm hoping, because obviously I want the tour operator to get good scores from me because they want the business again next year. I want to get the good scores because I want to do the job again.
Exactly. The better your scores are, the more often you get to work.
Right, but not only that, it's again, it's like the jobs take care of themselves if you have a good time. The scores should take care of themselves if you have a good time. That's why I said occasionally I'd have a score that wasn't quite as high as I thought it should be. But then I have to think to my own self when I do scores of my own. I rarely give perfect scores. So if there's there's some companies out there that do like you said, grades. I've seen some that go 1 to 10. I've seen some that go 1 to 4. And the trouble is, if it's me scoring, like if somebody gives me something to score, I would probably give if I enjoyed a tour, I'd probably give it 3s. Because I always think there's room for something even greater. And so
And I agree with you. I see where you're going with this, and I agree with you because I want to know how I can improve. But on the other end of that, I need those high-end scores to make sure I keep working.
Right.
So
Well, that's
give me some positive feedback. I mean, Janet, if you're still watching, she says we should get all the kids to get together here to get a reunion sometime. I'm like that. I don't know if I can do 40 people on a Google Hangout, but that would be kind of cool. We could, maybe that's something I could do in the future, is have a few of the people that I've actually had on tour join me. And I don't know if I want Janet on here because, well, Janet knows why. And Phantom, I'm not sure. Phantom, do we know who you are? Have I met you? Because the name looks familiar. I think you were on with me and Matt, and they were having a problem with the video, but now they've got it all fixed. And if anybody's got any kind of questions, I would really love it if you wanted to ask questions. What do you have, Bill?
What do I have?
First of all, I just got this from Janet. It says, Bill looks and talks like he would be just as good as me. That's a good compliment coming from Janet.
Well, thank you, Janet. I appreciate it. I don't know. Are you talking about yourself or of Brad?
Brad. So that's a good thing.
Maybe Brad and I can do it like a two-bus move sometime.
That would be fun. I've done those with a lot of good people. And yeah, if you can mess around and have fun with the other tour manager, play jokes on each other. Janet, I don't know if you can keep it clean long enough. I'm commenting on her video, on her comments here. Yeah, but yeah, that would be fun. I'd travel with you anytime, Bill.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Did you have something like a cool story, a good story, this time maybe something positive, that you would like to talk about, or you can talk about that yellow thing behind you.
Oh, you mean that?
You practiced that and you still can't get it almost right.
Yeah, that's back there. So just so you guys know, if you're on my Facebook account, you've probably seen me post pictures of my new ride. But that yellow object back there behind me, is actually a fold-up bicycle. It's called a Brompton. That's the brand name, and it's actually manufactured in London. And it took me over 2 months to have it ordered and shipped and arrive. But I had looked into doing. I had looked into getting fold-up bikes. Actually, my girlfriend Kimberly and I both got them, and because we travel so much, we kind of were inspired one day when we went to Yosemite last year, and we saw people riding some fold-up bikes, and we thought that would be such a great way to ride around the valley, where if you have time and you have this bike, but it's the idea of having to haul them in a car or on a bus or however you're getting around. A regular bicycle just takes up too much room, but these actually fold up to where you can technically take them on board an airplane as carry-on. I know some people that have done it. I'm not sure if I want to try it, but they can fit in the overhead bin.
I have not seen those on a plane before, but I can see that they're about the right size. Now, how much do they weigh?
That particular bike is 28 pounds. So it can definitely be checked. You can put it into a. They come with. You can get a bag for them to fit in that'll fit underneath an airplane. And I actually, when I'm coming to DC for this season, I'm planning to bring it with me, and it'll stay in my hotel room. And when I'm not working, I can go out and take it for a ride.
And that's a fantastic idea. It really is.
And really, they've tested people that have these Bromptons. They kind of have competitions to see who can unfold them the quickest, and the quickest it can be unfolded, I think, so far has been under 12 seconds.
Wow, what's your record?
I haven't timed myself yet.
About 2 minutes?
No, I can probably do it in a minute.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Now, how does it ride? How does it ride when you're actually out? Does it do all terrain, or is it mostly sidewalk?
It's mostly paving, or maybe, I would take it out on the C&O Canal, the trail there. I would do that, but mainly it's for roads. But it rides very well, actually. It's amazing. You're a little bit more upright than on a regular bike, but you don't feel like a clown on it. All together, you're not hunched over, you're not like sitting way down. The wheels are the small part, and the rest of it kind of opens up to a normal bike size. And this bike I have actually has 6 gears, and it comes with a whole lot of gadgets. It has a tool kit that fits inside the tube, so you have that with you. It comes with an air pump. It has a lot of cool little gadgets that come with it.
Pretty much everything you need. Now, Janet here does have a question for you.
Okay.
Where does Bill live, and does he stay in DC for the entire tour season? Tell her how that works.
Janet, that's a great question. And I live in San Diego. That's where I'm right now. I have lived here since October. Prior to that, I was living in Reston, Virginia, which is about 30 miles outside of D.C. I was there for about 3.5 years, and I have pretty much lived all over the country. So when people say, where are you from, it gets complicated. But we'll just say I lived in Virginia when I first started my tour business last year. I was living in Virginia. This year, I'm actually going to be flying to DC tomorrow, and I will be in DC for about a week doing a couple tours, and I'm flying back here, and then the week following I'm going back out, and I will probably stay in DC until the middle of June.
And that, Janet, is how you rack up frequent flyer miles.
So to answer, the whole thing is this is new for me to commute that far, but I've also got, after the student season, we just talked about DC, I've also got tours coming up that I'm doing the Grand Canyon, and I've got some fall foliage tours coming up. So I will not only be in DC, I'll also be in the Southwest, and I'll also be in the Northeast throughout this season, this whole year coming up.
Now, is the Southwest tour, is that an adult tour or student tours?
The Southwest tour I have is with adults.
Okay. And Phantom says, I can't think of any questions right now, so maybe we need to just force him to ask a question since he can't think of anything.
Ask him his name.
Well, I did, but he won't tell me his name, so...
He's a phantom.
Or did I? Maybe I didn't ask.
He's a phantom.
He is. Is he the Phantom of the Opera? I bet he gets that a lot if he uses this, with that username. Or she. Could be female. I can't tell. The pictures, there's no picture. It's like a logo. So I don't know if it's male or female. I don't know where they're at. I know where Janet is. She's in the Kansas City area.
Okay. Superhero.
Yeah. No, the group that Janet was with, oh my God. They were totally nuts.
From Kansas City?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What was some other stuff that we needed to talk about, Bill? I mean, it's getting to be kind of late. Is there anything extra that you wanted to talk about? We can start wrapping this up here in a few minutes.
I do know I mentioned briefly, and we had talked about it yesterday, about how, about the networking. I didn't know if we wanted to address that anymore, or if we kind of covered that.
Well, we did talk about that. Oh, his name is Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to meet you. We can talk about. I don't know how much you talked about that because I think I was typing, asking questions on the feed there, and so I'm not sure how much you talked about it. Now you touched on the networking, but that is a key to, and I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit. That is a key of how to make it big, or at least, well, make it big. You don't really make it big in this business, but how you stay busy by networking. So yeah, what have you? It's because I know you came from, like you said, the post office where you did, networking was like, what the heck is that? To here's what networking is, and you have to. I mean, you've learned from scratch. So tell us what that was like.
Well, it's interesting because, as I said, I moved so much as not only the post office, but even growing up, I moved and traveled so much throughout my life that I never put down a lot of roots anywhere. So the idea of having a whole lot of close friends and a whole lot of people, for me to rely on I relied on myself a lot and my family. And so it's just been it's been eye-opening and extremely gratifying to get into this business and start networking and making friends and finding ways. As I said, you're always looking for a job in this business. So if we're talking to fellow tour managers, tour directors, guides, tour operators, we all know in this business, and that's something I've learned since I've been in it, that we all need to rely on each other. And I guess the reason I wanted to talk about it was because I think there's a lot of people out there that may have questions about it, that maybe we can share in each other's experiences on how we went about finding work or how he went about finding somebody to do work. I mean, honestly, Brad, I have had a few companies that have asked me, Bill, can you do this? And my answer is no, I can't. Well, Bill, can you do this? It's like, no, I can't. And I've always been someone that had a hard time saying no. So for me to say no to a possible employer is difficult for me. So I want to be able to give them something and say, no, I can't do it, but here's somebody I know. And that's kind of the whole key of the networking, is that the more people you know, and the more you kind of have an idea of who you may need what you are being offered, but you can't do it. That kind of
Exactly. And even you and I were talking earlier before we went live. We were talking about Lisa, who had called me. We just got off the phone maybe an hour and a half ago, and she's a friend of Bill's, but she didn't know me through Bill. In fact, she didn't know, and she'd watched the Valfeltra live event also, and she called me up. She's working for a company that I've worked for a lot, and she's down in New Orleans, and she's like, I'm doing a 2-bus move, but they do it differently than this other company. What do I do? And that's a little piece of networking there, because she called the tour company, and they said, why don't you talk to Brad, and Brad can help you out. And then we find out, hey, I know these people, and we're all part of the same network, so now she's part of my network too. So there's one person to her network, and there's one more person to my network, and our networks continue to grow. I mean, that's why we use Facebook. That's why we use Twitter. I mean, I use Twitter more, and Janet, she's totally clueless on Twitter, and that was funny, because she was talking about, I don't know how to do this, and it's hard to tell. We need to do a Twitter class or something for old farts like us, and that's why we do that. That's one of the things I'm doing YouTube for, because I can show travel on video easier than I can in words. I have always been a visual and a video person. I went to college for video and film editing and radio and all of that. So that's my thing, and I like to bring that into some of my tours. So, and YouTube, some of the people say, well, YouTube really isn't a social network. It is, and it's also the second largest search engine next to Google, who owns YouTube. So this is like a big deal for me to keep doing it. I mean, I don't have a ton of subscribers, but I want that part of my network to grow too. And you want the Let's Go Road Trippin' part of my Facebook page to grow too, and my website. I want all of these to grow so that my community, or my network of tour managers and of guests and of tour operators, if we all get together, and then when I have a tour that I want to do, that people can see it, and that if you had a tour that you wanted to do, maybe some of my guests would like to go on one of your tours. It's just that whole, the networking gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's the concept of Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and all of this stuff. So yeah, networking is huge to our business.
Yeah, Brad, it's interesting that you mentioned that it's not just about getting the jobs. It is actually about being able to help each other out, because we all have needs. Sometimes we have needs like, hey, Brad, have you ever done the National Archives? And what do I do when I have a time ticket? Well, if you've never done it, and if you have somebody in your network you call them, and they can walk you through it, and then you learn it that way, and then you pass. It's one of those what is it, pay it forward type things. And on the reverse, people call me all the time and ask me questions, and sometimes I sit here thinking, well, I've only done it a year, but if I have the experience, I can help people out, and I know I can call them. Another thing is, as you said, you may have a tour that you're wanting to organize, and Janet said she wants to do a reunion, and maybe I know some people that want. You just never know where things can lead, and they talk about 6 degrees of separation. I think in our business it's more like 2.
I think you're right, because One of the people that helps me, that's going to help me run my New York tour, is Tanya Wolf. It's under her company, Wolf Adventures and Tours. And whenever I mention I'm working with her, everybody in our business knows who she is.
Yes, including me, because I knew Tanya before I knew you, Brad, and I didn't know that, you know, that's one of those cases where you work directly with her, I know her, and yet we didn't know each other originally, and we didn't meet through her either.
Exactly. I mean, my network and your network, they're starting to grow, and I think that's, I mean, even with Matt, because Matt's been doing this a few years longer than I have, and his network is pretty good size. And if we all keep combining our networks, I mean, it's just going to help. And that's, I mean, we could talk networking for another 20 minutes or an hour or four. Pardon me, my nose itches. But now Phantom, Mr. Jonathan, he said that he's into film as well, and he's actually going to college for that. And I said that he and I need to talk a little bit more, because I would love to talk more film and stuff, and that's kind of my hobby. One of my biggest hobbies is doing video. You can see my camera right here. I like to have it in my background. That's one of my 2 cameras I have. I've got a little vlogging camera I use too. Sometimes I take them on tours, but I don't want to vlog the exact same thing every single time, because then people wouldn't watch my videos. What kind of hobbies, I know you got the bike riding, what kind of hobbies do you do when you're on tour?
When I'm on tour?
Yeah, okay. How do you incorporate any hobby on tour, I guess is how I could say that.
You know, that's a great question, and I've never really contemplated it, because, well, I guess in a way, one of my hobbies, one of the reasons I'm in this business is because I love travel. So, and it may sound redundant, or, you know, it's like, oh my God, this is the same old story everybody says, but literally I grew up traveling, and when I'm not, you know, hence I took this cruise last week. I do what I call busman's holidays, which are when I'm not working, you know, if I'm the bus driver, the coach driver, next thing you know, I'm going to be on the coach bus as a tourist, because I still love doing the business. So so in a way, I'm doing my hobby as I'm working. Now, some of my hobbies, I like to play tennis, I like to hike, so, you know, bicycle, things like that. So when I'm touring, I do like to hike. So there again, that's kind of incorporated. You know, I can always, I'm looking around to see what new things I may find in an area, and then I hope I'm going to come back and maybe get a chance to do that. I don't really have a hobby like, I mean, I take a lot of pictures, but I'm not a...
You're not like an amateur photographer or anything like that. Well, and really quick, Janet was talking about how the networking, and she says, and you would rather go with someone who had been recommended. That does not help that does help rather than getting some stranger and not knowing if it will work out well. And she says that she got really lucky with me because I was fabulous with the kids. Of course, I'm going to blush. But, and she's right. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, I would rather, now, you know, here, with her seeing you on this video, I'm sure that she would be more than happy to be a chaperone, because she was one of the chaperones. She would be very comfortable being on a chaperone as a group tour to DC with you as the tour manager. And one thing, Janet, and I want you to tell Cherie this, and any teacher you know, no matter what company you travel with, or what, if they use a company, they can always request a tour manager. And that's what I like to tell my people, because if they like me and they want to use me again, they can request me. Of course, and the earlier they request, the more chance, the more likely they're to get me, because I have some people that request me almost a year in advance. The one group I have in 2 weeks is a group I've had 3 times in a row, and Laura and I get along great. In fact, she always brings her sister Sarah. And in fact, I even found out 2 years ago that another one of her friends, or another teacher who always asks for me, was like her, she was her student aide. Laura was Sue's student aide. So they know each other. So even that networking goes farther. So you can always request your tour manager. So if you know you're going to DC and you know Bill, or you know you want Bill, you can say, hey, I saw this guy. Let me get it. Let me talk to Brad and find out how to get a hold of him. Excuse me. And I will. I want to request him for my tour. And of course, they'll pass that on to Bill. And if Bill's available, I'm sure he'd do it.
I'd be happy to. I mean, I say I'd be happy to for many reasons, and one, I do love doing the tours.
And if it's a group that's with Janet,
I'm gonna have a good time.
most likely, even if the kids suck, you're gonna have fun with Janet because her and I were joking around a lot. Dang it, Janet! I have to behave because I never know if students are gonna watch this, so I have to behave. I can't say what I want to say. Dang it, Janet! Because I told her, I said, because I'm Brad and she's Janet. All I could think of was Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sure.
But I think we've actually been running an hour now. This is the longest one we've got, and we need to cut this short.
Okay.
Or cut this long, actually, was what it is. First of all, we've had up to 5 viewers, so this is a reasonably decent time for the live show. And I would love to do these more on Sundays, but quite honestly, in our business, it's not going to happen because Sundays we're working. Oh, hang on, we got something here. Andrew Zimmerman got Phantom interested in travel. It sounds fun to go different places and learn from other cultures. You're absolutely right, Phantom Jonathan. You can't get any better than travel. It's the best kind of education on the planet. And if anybody says different, they don't know what they're talking about. And no problem, Janet. I hope to see you real soon. She says, thanks for the info. Band travels next year. And she's keeping it clean. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. And I want to thank Bill for taking time out of his couple of days here for doing this. And again, I was talking about Sundays. Sundays, we can't really do it on Sundays during season because I'm not going to be able to ever have a guest. And quite honestly, I'm busy most Sundays. So our live shows will be probably during the week when I can get them up. And it will be probably, a day notice, 24-hour notice when I do these. And if you'd like to help support these live shows so I can do them more often, I would really appreciate it. And there's a link in the description on the YouTube channel for Patreon / Let's Go Road Trippin'. It's a campaign to help support the channel. And you can donate anything from $2 a month to $1 bajillion a month. And if you want to donate $1 bajillion a month, I'll be your personal slave. I'm being bad now. Anyway, and thank you again for the viewers. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and click like and subscribe. Share this to everybody. And I want to mention really quick my New York City trip in June 18th to 22nd. It's going to be $1,325 roughly for a double occupancy, 4 nights, half a block from Times Square at the Paramount Hotel. And this tour looks awesome. You've got to join the tour. Check out the link below to go to that tour, or just look up letsgoroadtrippin.com and go to upcoming tours and you'll find the details on that. And if you can't go, share the link with somebody who you think might, or put it on Facebook. Again, thanks, Bill. Is there any closing remarks you've got?
My closing remarks, we thank you, Brad, for giving me the opportunity for us to chat in front of people. And I've enjoyed it. And I hope to hear from everybody that watches this either already live or in the future. And we'll see each other out on the road.
We will. And I will see you then. So to everybody else, what do I always say? Oh, yeah, safe travels.